going to do the course, first of all. And we have some good news to share. I mean, last session, there were around 7 candidates went to the interview, and 5 of them passed really well. The other 2 also should have been passed, but when you are doing the RICS APC, sometimes you might face different situations. And this time we are committed, and we want all of you to do really well. And actually, our course is not targeting RICS APC alone. Our course is targeting to give you and make you a very competent quantity surveyor who's a fully fledged quantity surveyor who can work in any setting, any situation, in any country when you have that kind of competence. And in modern age, where the information data is very prominent, quantity surveying is probably one of the best professions to be in, because we have been considered as a T professional. A T profession. T profession means a profession that has some in-depth knowledge in things like cost management or construction economics, as well as we have a broader knowledge in other competencies as well. So these kind of professionals are the ones who are going to survive, are going to thrive in the future. We have done a CPD, or we have done a discussion on this, modern developments of information technology and how it affects the construction industry, and especially the quantity surveys as well in our YouTube channel. I hope everyone who is here have been sent us an email and joining us. If you haven't done that, because this is a paid course, if you don't mind, if you have and I've asked all our candidates to share, don't share the link if you have not been registered to the course. And if you are not registered to the course, please send us an email. We will put our email address below now, and then you can register. We will allow, we will let you know how to pay for the course as well. Yeah. Right. So let me introduce you to the course first of all. So being a quantity surveyor is a very good, you have scored a lot by being a quantity surveyor, first of all, in this modern technological era. Yeah. Let me introduce the course to you. And first of all, I have been in the, this is a collective effort of few of my friends actually who have studied together. I think we have a guest here as well. If you don't mind, would you be able to put your name when you are coming inside? Please put your name so that we can identify from your name. Yeah. Right now, so I did my RICS in year 2012. Let me mute. Yeah. So I did my RICS in 2012, and at that time we did a lot of studies to get the RICS, and we did really good techniques, improve our competence, because RICS is the APC system is designed. It's not like any other university course or degree course. It is designed to improve the practical, knowledge or practical competence among quantity surveys. That is a very good thing. And after you pass RICS, there's a very good chance that you will excel in your career, as well as you can adopt to any situation. That's the importance of RICS. When you go through the course, you will understand this, why it is beneficial. Yeah. And our course, with our experience, I have probably been in the APC process for like last 10 years. I have involved in final RICS APC interviews like more than 80 in different countries, in UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, Oman, and then Australia as well. So and then now I'm RICS APC chairman. So as well as I'm AIQS APC chairman as well, and I've done probably around 100 AIQS APCs, final APC interviews. And on top of that, I have mentored around probably 300, 400 or more than that, candidates. So all this experience and being in the industry or being in the APC process, I've gained a lot of insights and how to, how to approach that. And I have some very good, who supports me. Support staff is there. Johan Pascual is also here. So, and then we have another two people who are, supporting this course. And now we have put all our thoughts to make a course which should be beneficial and which should achieve the target of making a fully fledged quantity surveyor who can handle any technical situations and then excel in their career. Okay, so at the end of this course, you will gain that knowledge. Yeah, and easily you will pass RICS or AIQS APCs. But the important thing is there's a part that you need to also play. Yeah, you have to work as well as, we are giving knowledge, but it is up to you to work hard. Okay, usually our guidance is at least spend around 10 hours per week, starting from this week onwards, because we have around another 3 to 4 months. But for the submission, we have only 3 months from now, because usually it might be around 15th of September, you have to do the submission. So in order to prepare for that, you have to start working now itself. Yeah. And now it's the right time, I think we can start. So please put at least 8 to 10 hours per week. And then at the end of these 3 months, you will be transformed into a very good quantity surveyor. Yeah. Who will be a good ambassador of the profession as well. Yeah. Okay. So our course is designed. We have the introduction and procurement and tendering today. And then we will go to the contract practice, quantification and costing, design economics and project financial controlling, commercial management, construction technology, code of conduct and ethics. Then we will go for mandatory competencies. We will cover all the 11 mandatory, 10, because ethics is covered here already. The balance 10 mandatory competencies will be covered in these 2 weeks. And if there are any optional competencies that we have missed from you, we will cover that in the week number 10. So that means from now, within 2.5 months, we will complete all the 19 competencies. Yeah. So usually when you face for the RICS interview, you have 6 core competencies to be selected. Yeah. Usually you have in quantity surveying and construction, there are 7 competencies, core competencies. You have to select 6 out of them. Yeah. So the options are, you can either select design economics or commercial management. If you're in the consulting background or client background, it is prudent to use design economics because that is your experience will lie. Design economics is mainly cost planning and the pre-contract stuff. Commercial management is the quantity surveying within the contracting background, contracting setting. Yeah. So if you're a contracting quantity surveyor, commercial management should be the ideal competence to be selected. Yeah. So you have now 6 core competencies, then you have 11 mandatory competencies. These mandatory competencies, now you might have heard that RICS has around 21 pathways, okay, to achieve RICS. Now quantity surveying and construction is only one. Quantity surveying and construction, give me a second. Quantity surveying and construction is only one pathway. So there are around another 21 pathways like that. So all these pathways has a common competency setting, that is mandatory competencies. Yeah. So that is mainly, the management skills, soft skills, the PR skills, those kind of competencies. And then you have to select 2 competencies, optional competencies out of around 10 competencies. Yeah. So usually for quantity surveying and construction, our suggestion is you can use there's contract administration optional competency. Conflict avoidance, another optional competency. This would be easy to select because contract administration is already covered in the contract practice competency. And conflict avoidance is also a mandatory competency, as well as most of the is covered under contract practice. So when you select those two optional competencies, you don't have to put any additional effort to study for the optional competencies. So our suggestion is go for contract administration and conflict avoidance and dispute resolution. But if you feel that if you like to do any other optional competencies, obviously you are open to do that. Yeah. Right. So then we will have 3 Q&A sessions. Usually we will be covering around 1,000 questions, more than 1,000 within these Q&A sessions. So we will read out the question and we will give kind of a sample answer that you can give. Okay. And then mock interviews, you can ask for mock interviews. That is an optional part of the course. We are deploying RICS experienced panel chairmen and assessors to do these mock interviews. Usually these mock interviews will run for around 1.5 hours. You will do the first hour for mock interview, then around half an hour they will give you the feedback, and then these recordings will be video recordings will be shared to the candidate as well. So that is an optional thing, you can select that. And then we will do a final revision session also, that would be around 3 to 4 hours session, which will cover all the competencies at once, so that it will refresh your mind again. Yeah. Right. So we have prepared a reading list also for you. So we will share that within the WhatsApp group, that reading list. And then the final submission, that is also important. Now before that, let me show you Quantity Survey and Construction Pathway Guide, which we have already shared in the WhatsApp group. Very important thing, go through this document. There's a candidate guide also, which we shared in the WhatsApp group. Please go through that as well. And then we have prepared a YouTube video for RICS and AIQS APC process, which explain you the competencies, how to select the competencies, the final interview, the tips for the final interview, all these kind of things is there in that 2-hour video. Yeah. So please go through that if you have time. It's in YouTube. The channel is Australian College of Contract Management. You can go through the video and you will get a good idea about the APC process. The same thing I explained you, but in little bit more detail. Now, in the pathway guide, in the page 62, there's a thing called study checklist. Now, this checklist identifies for each and every competency, what are the inclusions, what are the things you should know. Yeah. So the jargon or the keywords is given. Yeah. So our course is targeting to cover these keywords. In each and every presentation, we cover each and every point or keyword here. And it's very important because the panels also will use this as a guidance to ask the questions. Yeah. So we also target that, as well as when you achieve these key, when you have a good knowledge and when you know how to implement it, then if you know how to advise it to somebody else also on these aspects, you will be a very good fully fledged quantity survey as well. Yeah. So please go through the APC guide and keep this checklist as well handy always with you, so that you remember what are the things you should cover. Yeah. Right. So that is that. Right. I'll come to the checklist now for the final submission. This was produced by ourselves within our team with all our experience, because there's no checklist in our RICS settings. We prepared this to support our candidates to submit the final submission. Yeah. And if you meet this checklist and if you can tick individually each and every box, your submission would be achieving the quality requirements of RICS. That is the intention. Yeah. The important thing is there are 3 major things. Word count. They have given the word count, mandatory competencies in the summary of experience. Now you have Usually 3 parts to submit in the final submission before the interview. Usually, if the interviews are in November, submissions would be in September, around 2 months or 1.5 months in advance. Why? Because the RICS needs to get the documents and select a panel and submit the documents to the panel, so that panel have enough time to prepare. Okay. Usually, this final submission has 3 parts, as I said. The first one is a case study. A case study is you identify issue in a project, in one of your projects, within the last 24 months before you go, your submission. Say for instance, your submission is 15th of September. Within 2 years prior, you select a case or key issue. Now the key issue is not a thing that you do day-to-day basis, certifying a payment, doing a variation, doing a claim, assessing a claim. Those are not key issues. Those are the things that expected to be done by a quantity survey. So day-to-day jobs. But any other issue which no one can give a direct answer, quick answer, that is called key issue. Yeah. For example, if you go to a doctor and this doctor can assess your situation very quickly, then that is not a key issue to him. But if your symptoms are a bit different and the doctor cannot give a straight answer, or he cannot identify your illness, then that is a key issue. Likewise for quantity surveys also, we cannot give a direct answer. No one can give. So now you have to go in depth. You have to be critical now. So you identify the issue, you check what are the options available to resolve this issue. And all of these options are feasible. Okay. They should be able to cure the patient. Okay. And all the options. And then you select the most feasible out of them. Okay. So that is the case study, how you are going to do the case study. Okay. You will understand while you go through this checklist, how to prepare that. Now for the case study also, in the pathway guide, in the candidates guide, which we have already shared in the path to you. Let me open it here. Candidate guide. So in the candidate guide, there are 3 pages for the case study submission. So they have given a format also to submit the case study. So you have to have an introduction, your approach, your achievements, conclusion, and then appendices. Okay. Yeah. So the important thing is you select a key issue. Okay. And then this key issue should be a, we call showstopper. If you don't resolve it, project will not go ahead. Okay. That kind of issue should be selected. Then when you write in that, you explain what is the project, what is the key issue, why it is becoming a key issue now. And then you go to your approach. Your approach is what are the solutions you are giving now. Okay. So you list out all your options. And then these options you compare each other. Okay. Critically, that means each and every option you have to critically analyze what are the advantages and disadvantages. Then laterally, that means you have to compare all of them also. Okay. So vertically and horizontally. And then you select the best out of them. And you tell in the report why you select that option as the best. Okay. And then you go to the implementation. What you did. How did you implement that option? And then what is the final outcome? Okay. And then you mention what are the recommendations you will give. What are the things you learn? Reflective analysis. Okay. So that you can use that in your future projects. So this is the case study. We will try to share some sample case studies with you also. But there are some issues because the case studies that we are going to share is the ones that already been submitted. And in RICS, you cannot copy another case study. If you do that, you will be, plagiarism softwares are there in RICS. If you found that, there's a plagiarism issue, RICS will might blacklist you and not allow you to do this, RICs again. So there's a small risk. So we will check that, because we face similar case recently, not with our course, but with another person. So we are thinking about it, how to share it. But if you go through the checklist and if you go through this setting, you can easily prepare a good case study. Now let's go through the checklist. Okay. Now our checklist is based on all these guidance. Okay. Right. Word count is important. So when you write the summary of experience, now case study is one document, summary of experience is the other document. Then the third one is your application form, which RICS will email you closer to the date of submission. Okay. Now, summary of experience, you have mainly 3 parts. You have to write mandatory competencies, you have to write core competencies, you have to write optional competencies. In this summary of experience, what we are saying is your experience, you summarize your experience. Okay. So you should not write anything other than your experience, basically. Okay. And when you do the mandatory, the maximum number of words is 1,500. You cannot go beyond that. There's a now RICS online portal to write this information, which is called ARC, Assessment Resource Center. It's an online web-based system. So you cannot write more than 1,500 words there. For the technical, that is core and optional competencies are called technical competencies. Maximum words are 4,000 words. Okay. Case study is maximum 3,000 words. Okay. So these are the word count, and you have to stick to the word count. I've seen sometimes people have been referred by the panels citing word count issues. Okay. So we need to be very careful on the word count as well. Case study date, that's also important. Case study should be within 24 months. The issue should have been raised within 24 months from the submission. Now I'm not talking about the project, not the project duration or project end date, nothing. I'm talking about the key issue. When the key issue was arose, is it within 2 years from the submission date? Okay. Then you have to submit a CPD record as well. Okay. You have to provide a CPD record 48 hours per every year in your training. Now, when you go for the RIC APC, you might know this. You will be considered as a trainee quantity survey, trainee APC quantity survey. So that is from your start of the APC journey until you go for the successfully pass the APC interview, you will be considered as a trainee APC quantity survey. During this period, every year you have to record 48 hours of CPD. Okay, and the CPD you have to try to make it balanced, so you cover all the competencies and different competencies as well. Now this course covers around 60 hours of CPD hours. So basically your yearly competencies will be covered from the course. Okay? Right, now when you write in, it's very important, these documents should be professional documents. As a quantity surveyor, you might have to write documents or submit documents to the clients. And when you're doing that, those documents should be professional. So what are the things should be included in a professional document? Your spellings, punctuation and grammar should be correct. Okay, 100% or near to 100%. Okay, because this is homework we are doing in advance. Then in the summary of experience, you have to give evidence. Now, I'll come to that. In the RICS APC process, each competency have been, you have to achieve levels of competence for the competency. Now, core competencies, you have to achieve level 3. What do you mean by level 3? Now, level 1 is knowledge. Do you have knowledge in the competency? Level 2 is, can you implement? Can you do that? That is level 2. Level 3 is, can you advise or can you train another person? Now, if you relate that to an experience like driving, learning driving, if you can, if you know driving, you have gone through the, documents and the guidelines and rules and all, that is level 1. And if you can drive a vehicle, that is level 2. And if you can teach another person or advise another person how to drive, that is level 3. Okay. So core competencies, you have to achieve level 3. Optional competencies, you have to achieve level 2. You should be able to do it, not advisory level. Mandatory competencies, they are ethics, code of conduct should achieve level 3. And there are another 3 competencies, mandatory competencies you should achieve level 2. One is client care, health and safety. As I remember, the other one is, I don't remember the other one. So there are 3 competencies you have to achieve level 2. Balance, you have to achieve only level 1. Okay, that means knowledge only. Okay, right. So when you write the summary of experience for the level 1 parts, okay, say for instance, you are writing one competency. It is a technical core competency. Now you have to write 3 sections, level 1, level 2, level 3. That's how summary of experience is being, formatted. So the level 1, you mentioned you attend to CPDs, you read books. That's how you learn the concepts for that competency. Level 2 is your implementation. Have you done a cost plan? So you have to give evidence for that. Level 3 is advisory. You give an advice to someone else. So that is also you need to give evidence for that. Okay, so that's what you call evidence. Evidence should be given, and it should be logical, and it should be matched with the employment history. Okay. Right. Then we come to the RICS assessment. So APC framework, RICS vision, obligations, professionalism. So when you write down the documents, you have to match these also. You have to think about them, okay, and then write. So the professionalism is very important. RICS expects your document should be meeting the professional requirements, okay. Right, when you come to the summary of experience, it's very important, the accuracy. The things you write is correct, technically okay, technically correct. So that is very important. You will gain that kind of knowledge from your studies as well as the competencies or the CPDs like this. Okay. Accuracy is important. Clarity. When you write, it should be clear for a person who reads that. Okay. Clarity is important. That comes with your language and the grammar. You don't have to write very complex language. Yeah, it will reduce the clarity basically. Simple language, but with correct grammar will give a lot of clarity. And then the level of detail, that is, now RICS panels have been trained and advised to ask questions only from the summary of experience. So they will start from the summary of experience. So the summary of experience should have enough level of detail to question. Okay, the panel should be able to get questions from that. So your level of detail should be there. So that means, say for instance, you are writing a core competency, go to the checklist that I showed you before, study checklist, and identify what are the keywords there and check what are the things you have done. Okay, and you have to write these keywords in your summary of experience. Then the panel can ask questions from that. Okay, so if you don't have level of detail, panel would be in trouble, and RICS will not recognize your submission as up to the quality levels. So level of detail is also important. Right, level 1, evidence of knowledge. Level 2, examples of applying your knowledge. Level 3, reason or further advice. You should give another at least one example. Okay. I hope you understand. If you have any questions, please let me know. Yeah. Right, that is summary of experience. Now we'll come to the case study. Now case study, the checklist is you have to select a suitable project. Yes. And your case should be within 24 months from the submission date. And you have to show what is the level of responsibility. You cannot write something that has been done by another person. You have to show that you are the responsible person to resolve that issue. And then at least there should be one critical issue. And this issue should not be day-to-day quantity surveying function. It should be a critical issue. Okay. And it shall require quantity surveying competencies to resolve. Okay. Now, for example, if it is a procurement issue, yeah, procurement is quantity survey's competency. So it requires your knowledge to resolve, but you should not give any engineering solutions or any other solutions because you are not an engineer. You're not an architect, you are quantity surveyor. So your solution or your case should be able to resolve by a quantity survey. Okay, so it should be within our competency boundary. And then you have to identify when the issue happen, what are the project requirements, time, cost, quality, because this is the objective that you are going to achieve in the project. And you have a now key issue. And when you resolve the key issue, you should be able to achieve the objectives of the project. Yeah. Then you have to mention what are the solutions you selected. All the solutions should be feasible. Okay? And then you select the best out of them. Okay. Choose a solution and you state in the report why you select that option. You give reasons for that. Okay. And then you mention how the project was, what was the implementation and how it ended up. And your lessons learned in the conclusion. And then you have to mention what are the competencies you have achieved through the case study. At least one level 3 competence should be achieved. Okay. And case study should be consistent with summary of experience and your employment history. Okay. That means, if you cannot write another project which you have not been worked in your company, so that also should be there. Accuracy, clarity, and level of details also very important in case study as well. Okay, so grammatically correct, punctuation, spellings, everything should be correct. Okay, and then yeah, so we created this guidance or checklist for you to understand the RICS requirement. Now you have to read this checklist along with the case study and summary of experience guidance of the RICS, which we have already put in the WhatsApp group. We will again put that. Yeah. So go through this, and when you have to now start finding a case study, case or critical issue. Okay. Think about what are the critical issues you have. Okay. So the initial start, what you can do is, okay, say for instance, I'll give you some examples. You are in a contractor setting, contractors organization. So you appointed a landscaping subcontractor. I'm giving a very simple example. Now landscaping contract has been selected, the project has started, everything's done, and this landscaping is in the critical path now. Okay, or maybe it's closer to the critical path, and suddenly landscaping contractor says, I cannot do that, and he walk away from the site. Now what you will do? Okay, now can you bring a new subcontractor? Can you divide the package into two because you have to save the time? Or can you as the main contractor do the package? So there are some options. So what are the options you selected? And then what is the best option out of them? So that is a case study. It is not a day-to-day case. It suddenly appears in the project. Yeah? So this is one example for a case. Now, if you relate this to a practice of a doctor, I'm always getting the doctor's example because it's easy to understand. So a normal day-to-day patient who is having normal symptoms of a fever is very easy to diagnose by a doctor. Yeah, but if he's getting something unique, something different, now he has to use his own knowledge and experience and try to identify solution. And if you don't give a solution, the result can be a fatal situation. So you have to take a decision as well. Now, as a doctor, you will be tested. This is what we are going to do for a quantity survey as well. We are going to test a quantity survey in that kind of a situation. So he will now, the doctor will use his knowledge, experience, and try to give a solution to the patient. Now he might get number of solutions also. So all those solutions should be able to cure the patient. And out of these solutions, he select the best by a comparison. And then he should give a reason why he selected this option as the best. And ultimately, the patient should be able to cure as well. Yeah. And later he can say that, okay, in reflection, I could have given this also. Okay. So that is reflective analysis. So this is exactly the same thing we are doing for a quantity survey now. Okay. I hope you understand what is the intention of the case study. And you have to put a lot of effort, thought about case study now itself, because it takes time. Okay. It's not easy. It's not hard also, but you have to start early. Then, when you go inside, you will understand, okay, how a case study can test a quantity survey really well. Okay, so it's very important, right? So we'll issue this in our WhatsApp group, and we want all of you to, after this session, go back, identify the key issues you have, and then you might have a council as well. And when you identify a case critical issue, you find whether it is the issue is critical and what are the options, and you write like one page document. Okay, you write the issue, you write the options, and you write the selected option. Okay, that's it, and send it to your counselor, and counselor will check it and come back to you. You can develop it. Sometimes counselor might not be very proactive, but you can do a lot of things on that. Okay, we will try to help you, but in the initial stage, you and counselor is the best people to do that. Then you develop the case study according to the checklist. Okay, and there would be a point that you will feel that, okay, yeah, my documents are in line with the checklist. Yeah, you have to check everything and then send it to us for our review. Then we will do the first review and we will give detailed comments to you. Then again, you go back, you fix the issues, and then come back and we will do the second round of review. Yeah, sorry for that. Right. So then the second round is after we give the comments, you fix it and come back to us, and then we will check the second review. And our review will check how an RICS panel will check. Okay, so and we will give the comments and you will fix it. And after the second round, we believe that it should be able to meet the RICS requirements. Last year, there were a number of candidates who have failed in the PER, reviews and all, and came back to us, and then we implement this process, and they were very successful. The important thing is you also have to understand what are the requirements of RICS. This checklist will help you to do that, because when you do that only, you can guide another person and you can be a successful RICS APC candidate as well. Okay, so that's why we stress on the checklist. We'll send you the checklist, and when you submit the first review to us, you have to check all the tick boxes so that we know that you have checked all of them. And then along with your submission, please attach the checklist and submit to us. Okay, right. And we have put 2 milestones for you because since it is a tight time frame for the RICS, we want you to work now itself, and we need to have some time for us also. I mean, because our review might take around 2 weeks, because we are getting around 10-12 submissions simultaneously, so we need to allocate our resources as well. We thought 6th of August should be the first submission review. That is 2 months from now, which should be enough for you to submit that. Then the second review would be 3rd of September, because around 15th to 20th, you might have to do the final submission. So beginning of August, beginning of September, then your submission should be ready for September. Yeah, I hope that is clear to you. Do you have any questions? Right, and we are planning, last year also we did the same, to arrange study groups among you. Okay, so if you have any preference, you can tell us. Then we can arrange a study group, and we will allow you to use a channel from our MS Teams, space. And this usually in this group, ideally it should be around 4 people. So these 4 people, we will give you a kind of a guidance how to run these sessions. So you will start from the mock interviews. So you will do the normal RICS APC setting in these mock interviews. Yeah, these will run for like 1.5 hours. So this group can select, how many number of mock interviews they can do in a week. Ideally 4 at least, so everyone will get a chance. So the intention is 3 of them will be the panel, 1 would be the candidate, and the 3 of them will ask questions from the candidate, and we will give you the sample questionnaires, real questionnaires which have been asked by the RICS panels in the previous interviews. So the candidate will answer that, and then at the end of the interview, you will discuss the outcome. Okay, then you will discuss the questions that were not bit hard for all of you, and you research. Then the next interview would be that candidate will be a panel member, and 1 panel member will be the candidate, and you do this in a rotation basis. Okay. When we did the RICS, we had around 13 people, and we did the same thing. And at the end of that, we were in a really good situation to, handle any interview or face anything, basically. Okay. And personally, the 13 of us have done probably around, I would say around 200, 300 mock interviews. So that is a huge number of questions, of huge knowledge, and it's very interesting also. So RICS is not a thing that you can read from books, and it's not like that. You have to speak, you have to understand the questions in a pressurized environment. Yeah. So when you do these mocks, you will get ready for that as well, and then ultimately it will impact your career as well. So if you are preferring any group, please let us know. We encourage you to group together like 3-4 people and do that, or we will arrange also a group so that you can get together and carry on. Yeah, right. So I think we have given enough introduction about the course, group mock interviews, group sessions, final submission, final checklist, and now milestones. Yeah, right. So let's go ahead with the presentation day. Presentation day. Right. So I'll start with the procurement and tendering today. This is a very important competency in RICS interview settings or interviews, and it's considered as like bread and butter of a quantity survey. So you should have a good understanding. Procurement and tendering, quantification and costing are the major competencies for a quantity survey. Right, let's go through the procurement and tendering. Right, I hope you can see the presentation of mine. Right, so we are going to discuss why procurement is important. Okay, now before that, let me go through the checklist so that you know what are the things should be included in the procurement. So this is the APC pathway guide. Right, procurement and tendering. These are the things we should learn. Types of procurement: traditional, design and build, management contracting, construction management, financial basis, lump sum, remeasured, cost reimbursable, target cost, management contracts, tendering, standard rules of tendering, single two-stage tendering, competitive and negotiated, electronic tendering, compilation of tender list or pre-qualification, compilation of tender documents, pre and post tender estimates, tender analysis, tender reports, partnering. Yeah, partnering. So these are the headings that we need to cover. Okay, and today's session we are going a little bit above that as well, which we believe it's good for your knowledge. Yeah.